have been conducted.
And one on Syria, if I could.
Sure.
You said you were unwilling to discuss military options as a potential Plan B. Plan B was a phrase used by the Secretary of State at least twice so far publicly. So it wasn't simply speculative, it was from the administration.
Yeah.
So is there or is there not a Plan B?
Well, I think the point that I was making to Aisha is that we are focused on trying to bring about the successful implementation of the understanding about a cessation of hostilities. That is certainly the focus of Secretary Kerry's efforts, and it's the focal point of all of the work that's going on as a part of our work in Syria. Again, the cessation of hostilities does not apply to our ongoing military efforts against ISIL. Those efforts continue, and they will continue unabated. But when it comes to this diplomatic track, our focus right now is on trying to get this cessation of hostilities implemented, and that we navigate the early potholes in the road that we're sure to encounter.
So it's not that you're unwilling to discuss a Plan B, but you're not unwilling to entertain the possibility of military option.
Yeah.
Because many would say, frankly, they'd be shocked if the administration would consider military options, given that consistently the administration's been against any kind of military option in Syria.
Right. A lot of our critics, or at least sort of the armchair quarterbacks, have suggested that a Plan B should be considered that would include some sort of military option. And I think the case that I'm trying to make here is that we're very focused on trying to implement the cessation of hostilities. The reason that I'm not ruling out the Plan B generally is because you would expect the administration to take responsible steps around contingency planning. We do that on essentially every policy question the president faces, both foreign and domestic. So I'm not suggesting that there's not a discussion about potential contingencies, but I am suggesting that those kinds of discussions are not the focus of our attention right now. What is the focus of our attention is the successful implementation of a cessation of hostilities. Okay? JC.
Less than 2 weeks ago, the Vice President was on the phone with the popular elected President of Ukraine, Poroshenko.
Mm-hmm.
They discussed the political importance of the Minsk agreement. Hostilities still raging in the eastern part of that country, and their effort together to root out any kind of corruption, etc. Might the President, since he has been meeting with some leaders to bring more openness in his last part of his administration, might he consider a visit to Ukraine in this last year of his administration?
Well, I don't have any updates about the president's travel at this point. Obviously, the situation in Ukraine is something that has it's been something that the administration's been working on quite a bit lately. And obviously, Vice President Biden had the opportunity to travel to Ukraine at the end of last year. I think Vice President Biden, probably more than anyone at senior levels in the administration, has been invested in trying to bring about the resolution in Ukraine that we'd like to see. Much of that has been blunted by the refusal of the Russians to implement their part of the Minsk agreements. We have seen the Ukrainians take some important steps. We've also seen the Ukrainians put in place some important reforms that will be beneficial to their longer-term success. But right now, the biggest problem is the continued willingness of the Russians and the separatists in eastern Ukraine that they back to flout the obligations and the commitments that they made in the Minsk agreement. And even as Ukraine is facing some significant challenges, they can continue to rely on the United States to be there to support them as they navigate this difficult situation. Okay, Mary.
You've said that